Hey everybody, and welcome to the Bach reading thing. Yeah, it's been a little while. It's been a week since the last one, so I hope you're ready for a little more Bach. So today we're going to be reading about him being a student in Lüneburg. I think I said last time that he got a job in Lüneburg. He was probably working there too as a student, I would imagine. Yeah, well, we don't have to waste any time. We can just jump into it. I'm sure I'll talk to you more during and after this chapter. So, let's go ahead and jump into it. Student at Lüneburg. Bach was the student. The time was ripe, at all events, for Johann Sebastian to leave Oradorf. Finally. We were there for what, like 8 minutes? His brother's family, Christoph was his brother, was increasing apace, which means getting bigger, I guess, getting bigger swiftly. And the organist's quarters had been growing uncomfortably cramped. He was now 15, at an age which boys were expected to start earning their living. So the chance to remove to Lüneburg proved a stroke of luck. But there were more fascinating advantages to it than even the possibilities of bed and board. Easily accessible were several sources of musical and cultural inspiration. In Lüneburg itself, the church of St. Johann, that's my running joke here. One of the outstanding personalities in German music of the era, preceding the full unfoldment of Bach's grandeur. 30 miles off lay Hamburg, which harbored the venerable master of the organ, Adam Reinken. So I looked him up. You'll never guess Adam Reinken's first name. It's Johann Adam Reinken. I think I'm pronouncing his last name right. And the operatic life of the city had burst into bloom under the leadership of Reinhard Peyser. Up in the direction of the Danish frontier, the town of Lübeck sheltered still another giant, a figurative giant, I imagine. The organist, Buxtehude, I'm not going to try to say his first name, Dietrich Buxtehude. 60 miles in an easterly direction lay Celle, whose Duke George Wilhelm had married a beautiful and spirited French Huguenot, Eleanor Desmere Olbrius, and turned his court into a miniature Versailles, where French musicians in particular were royally welcomed. Is that a pun? Naturally, a little opera house formed part of this island of Gaelic charm, elegance and culture, enlivened by a continual succession of ballets, operas, and other musical diversions. Whether Bach obtained admission to the auditorium, or whether he was smuggled into the orchestra pit by some friendly player, we do not know. But of one thing we are certain: his love for the music of the French masters, and his intimate acquaintance with it, was in large degree the result of what he heard and learned at the gracious ducal court of Celle. Wow, Bach being smuggled into a court in Celle. Sounds epic. Bach spent almost 3 years in Lüneburg, where St. Michael's Church and its conventual buildings were his home. He continued his studies at the Particular Schule, and that's italicized, looks German, of the church, sang with the Mettenchor, and was a member of the Chorus Symphonicus. Wow. Of which the choir formed the nucleus. He developed, gradually, into a capable organist. He sure did, and came under the healthy influence of George Boehm at the Church of St. John, whose impress can be detected in some of Bach's early organ works. Boehm was a pupil of Adam Reinken, and undoubtedly urged the young man to hear the aged master. Well, we don't have to call him aged. We don't have to be rude to him. Though one could readily imagine that Bach would sooner or later have sought out Reinken of his own volition. The summer vacation of 1701, well, man, the summer of '01, you guys remember that? Found him traveling afoot to Hamburg. Oh, are we going to Hamburg next? Leaving Lüneburg? The patriarch had been organist of St. Catherine's Church half his life. Wait, who's the patriarch? We're not talking about Bach, he's still a teenager, right? And though now nearly 80, continued to be famous for his virtuosity and his extraordinary skill in improvisation. I think we might be talking about Bach. Oh man, I'm being a really bad guide right now. I don't even know what the text is trying to tell us. Nor was it his executive powers alone which captured his young listener. Reinken's compositions. Okay, we're talking about Reinken. All right, he was master improviser. Reinken, blowing Bach's mind. Reinken's compositions fascinated him, and their influence is perceptible in certain of Bach's clavier pieces 20 years later. Okay, well, that was Bach and Lüneburg, and now we're going to Hamburg. But I'm going to end this one with a tale, a fish tale, if you will, of Bach's first trip to Hamburg. This first trip to Hamburg was by no means Bach's last, and thereby hangs a tale, a fish story. That's the joke that I just made. I read this already, if you will, but nevertheless true and related a number of times by Bach himself. Tired and hungry, on his long jaunt back to Lüneburg, the boy sat down for a moment's rest outside the kitchen of an inn whose open windows exalted tempting savors. Suddenly, there fell at his feet the heads of 2 herrings. Oh my god, is this like a horror story now? A fish prized as a great delicacy in his native Thuringia. Eagerly picking them up, he found inside of each a Danish ducat? A Danish ducat. So, which is like a gold coin. Somebody took some fish heads and shoved dirty money into it and like gave it. Why? Why'd you have to shove it in the fish head? Inside of each, a Danish ducat, obviously put there by some kindly soul who had caught sight of the famished young wanderer. Whether or not Bach ate the heads, which I mean, I don't know. Do you think he ate the heads? Post in the comments. He suddenly found himself with money enough for an ample dinner, and sufficient also to defray the expenses of another visit to Hamburg. I wonder how much a gold ducat was back then. And I wonder, man, that was nice of them. But if you see me on the street, don't give me a fish head. Just give me a 6-pack of beer, and I'll be fine. Don't wake me up either. Just set it at my feet. Let me find it, and I'll know that it was one of you. That is the tale of Bach and Lüneburg, and also his first trip to Hamburg. A little bonus for you. Alright, well, if you haven't noticed, these are being posted every Wednesday night as sort of a bedtime story. So now, hopefully you watch this as it came out. You get to go to sleep and think about Bach with his heads of fish and being a cool guy, playing organ, and talking to old people. Because that's what he did. Alright, well, this has been a pretty fun one. You know, all the usual stuff. Like and subscribe. You know the drill. Yeah, anything else? Hope your day is going well. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.